Welcome to The Ticking Clock, the podcast where we break down the complex mechanisms of government and examine the tension between political strategy and real-world impact. Today, we are focusing on a phenomenon that has become a routine crisis in modern American governance, the U.S. government shutdown. The headlines are always urgent and sensational. Government closed, services suspended, economic fallout imminent. But what exactly is a shutdown? Is it truly a catastrophe or a dramatic symptom of a deeper structural breakdown in the political system? To understand its meaning beyond the noise, we need to examine its legal origins, its escalating use as a political tool, and the profound human and economic consequences that rarely make the front pages. The term government shutdown often implies a complete stoppage of federal activity, but in practice, the situation is more complex. Its roots trace back to the Antideficiency Act of 1870, a law that forbids federal agencies from spending money without congressional approval. For decades, lapses in funding were relatively uneventful. Agencies continued operating under the assumption that lawmakers would reach a deal in time. That changed dramatically in the early 1980s, when Attorney General Benjamin Civiletti issued a strict interpretation of the law, stating that when funding expires, agencies must stop all non-essential operations. With that legal interpretation, a once obscure budget rule became the trigger for a full-fledged shutdown. A temporary funding gap was transformed into a mandatory halt in government activity, shaping the shutdown as a political weapon ripe for exploitation. When funding expires, the federal government effectively divides itself into two groups of activity. Mandatory spending, which includes programs such as Social Security, Medicare, and other benefits funded through permanent law, continues largely unaffected. These programs operate beyond the reach of annual appropriations and remain insulated from shutdown turbulence. The U.S. Postal Service also continues operating because it is independently funded. The disruption occurs within the portion of the government that depends on yearly appropriations, discretionary spending. Here, agencies must sort their employees into furloughed and accepted categories. Furloughed employees, those deemed non-essential, are prohibited from working and may not even check their government email. Accepted employees, those whose jobs are considered vital to human safety or the protection of property, such as air traffic controllers, federal law enforcement, and Transportation Security Administration officers, must continue working without pay until funding is restored. The shutdown becomes not just a budgeting issue, but a division of value: who is deemed essential and who is not. Every major shutdown in recent decades has been rooted not in fiscal accounting, but in partisan policy conflict. In 1995 and 1996, President Bill Clinton's administration clashed with a newly Republican-controlled Congress over Medicare funding and deficit reduction, resulting in two shutdowns lasting a combined 26 days. In 2013, a 16-day shutdown emerged from an effort to block or delay the Affordable Care Act. And in 2018-2019, the longest shutdown in U.S. history, 35 days, unfolded amid a standoff over funding for a southern border wall. These episodes reveal a clear pattern. Shutdowns have become a tool for leverage used by both parties to extract policy concessions unrelated to the budget itself. Instead of a disagreement over numbers, shutdowns reflect the broader dysfunction of a polarized government struggling to compromise. While political leaders treat the shutdown as a strategy, the consequences are not abstract. Economically, shutdowns are more expensive than keeping the government open. The nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimated that the 2018-2019 shutdown reduced the U.S. economy by roughly $11 billion, with $3 billion in economic activity lost permanently. The paradox is striking. Government workers eventually receive back pay for the period during which they were unable to work, meaning taxpayers pay full price for zero productivity. Contractors, who do not always receive back pay, build the uncertainty into their pricing, increasing future costs for the government. Key federal functions central to the economy, such as approving small business loans, processing mortgages, and conducting safety inspections, grind to a halt. Even data collection is affected. During a shutdown, vital economic indicators may be delayed, leaving financial markets and businesses without the clear information they need to make decisions. In every measurable way, shutdowns are financially irrational. Beyond the numbers is the human cost. More than 2 million federal employees and countless contractors bear the brunt of the shutdown. Furloughed workers lose paychecks overnight, creating immediate financial stress. Many federal workers live paycheck to paycheck, and the sudden loss of income forces painful choices. Delayed rent, unpaid bills, maxed out credit cards. Accepted employees, often in high-stress, mission-critical roles, must continue working without pay. Air traffic controllers, TSA officers, and Border Patrol agents have described this situation as demoralizing and unsustainable. During past shutdowns, some employees called out sick because they couldn't afford transportation to work, causing delays and disruptions at airports nationwide. The damage ripples further, reaching society's most vulnerable. Food assistance programs such as SNAP and WIC may face operational constraints and funding delays. The FDA may reduce inspections, affecting public health. The National Institutes of Health may pause clinical trial enrollment or research approvals, setting back scientific progress in ways that can never be fully regained. Veterans may face delays in benefit processing. Entire communities, especially those with large populations of federal employees, suffer from reduced spending and local business strain. The deeper cause of the shutdown problem lies in the structure of American political power. The Constitution grants Congress control over federal spending, and in a polarized system, the threat of withholding that spending becomes a weapon. To some lawmakers, especially those representing ideological factions, the shutdown is leverage. It forces confrontation where normal legislative processes have failed. Critics call this tactic hostage-taking, arguing that no political objective justifies freezing the core functions of government. Yet there is another, less discussed philosophical viewpoint, that the shutdown is a necessary pressure valve. In this argument, if Congress cannot agree on how taxpayer dollars should be spent, then the government should not spend money. Supporters of this view believe that shutdowns prevent automatic approval of massive, rushed spending bills and force the public to confront just how dysfunctional the appropriations process has become. It is an uncomfortable but revealing theory. The shutdown is not a failure of democracy, but democracy functioning at its most confrontational edge. Still, crisis should not be the price of governance. Meaningful reform could reduce or eliminate shutdowns altogether. Some analysts recommend abandoning massive omnibus spending packages and instead passing individual appropriations bills for each segment of government. Others propose modernizing the federal budgeting process, separating long-term projects like infrastructure from routine operational budgets. There are proposals to automatically extend current funding levels if Congress fails to reach an agreement, preventing shutdowns entirely. Any of these changes would require political courage, a willingness to govern instead of fight, and a shared belief that basic government functions should not be a bargaining chip. The federal shutdown is more than a political drama. It is an indictment of a system struggling to reconcile partisan priorities with the basic expectation of governance. It is a costly disruption that harms the economy, extracts emotional and financial tolls from workers and families, and undermines public confidence in democracy. At the same time, it exposes a deeper truth. The budget process needs structural reform. Without it, shutdowns will continue to be a recurring crisis, part of the permanent political landscape. Thank you for joining us on The Ticking Clock. If this conversation helped you understand the shutdown beyond the headlines, please take a moment to like and subscribe, and share the episode with someone who cares about how our government really works. Until next time, stay informed.